And okay, so that's what we'll be using today. And let me just reconfirm. Sent the message to everyone who ought to be in the class. Just reconfirm that. Also reconfirm, just a second, please. Okay. All right. Okay, so I just want to second. All right, so I think we're good to go. And all right. Okay, so we begin the session now. Since last week, last 2 weeks, we began our journey into Objectview. And I told you Objectview is like the holy grail of programming because there are about like a lot of different ways to write programs. There's the procedural paradigm, which I displayed. There is the functional paradigm, but we just discovered that most times it's better when you package functions together with a particular state in which those functions are supposed to perform. Those states are what we call attributes, and the functions we'll call them methods. So attributes basically are also known as properties, and they just describe the states in which the functions should exist. So when we create those states, those properties, or those attributes, what we're trying to create are entities, that would like encapsulate the functions and give some background or some extra data, to the functions. So if I create a class like this one, and I call it, say, car, class car, all right? Now, when I define an init method, which I told you I hate when Visual Basic always does this. When I define an init method and I talk about a brand name, talk about a brand name, year of manufacture, if I write just year, YOM, just to abbreviate it. All of these are just pieces of data, brand, year of manufacture, maybe owner's name and all of that. They're just pieces of data that would just give you an insight into the person or into the entity that controls all of these functions, like drive, like ignite, like whatever function that a car has, all right? So that's basically the heart of object-oriented programming. Package the states or data about the states, or the properties, with the methods. Now, I want to go further into some other parts of object-oriented programming because there are some, I know Python can be very wonky at times, but there are some nuances, there are some stuff that are foundational when we do object-oriented programming. So I'm going to go into those, but I will still want to give some examples of classes and how they work, so that when we start talking about those four things: abstraction, encapsulation, polymorphism, and what do you call it now? Abstraction, encapsulation, polymorphism, and inheritance here, it begins to become very glaring. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to introduce us to class libraries. Now, Python has a lot of pre-written classes. They were classes that were written by the team at the Python Software Foundation, obviously, that maintain the code for core Python. And what they do is they create these class libraries so that it's easy to, you don't have to start from the scratch. And that's the whole essence of object-oriented programming, that when you package functions and methods together, it's easy to refactor or reuse those codes without reinventing the wheel. So most times when we use an import statement like import OS, or import time, or import whatever it is that we are, let me just use this because this is one of the secret modules that you would probably need if you work on maybe games or on processes that have to do with automation and stuff like that. Time is actually one of the modules that you would use. So they're actually pre-written classes with methods and attributes. And when you are looking at your code in Visual Studio, if you want to, if you refer to this time dot, Visual Studio gives you a lot of stuff, lists and all that, all right? So anyone in a box like this is a method. And all methods, like if I say time dot time now, all methods must close with a bracket, because when you're making a method call, you have to close with a bracket. Now, some method, like I told you, methods are functions, basically. They're the same. Methods and functions are one and the same, but a method is actually a function that belongs inside of a class. It's not a standalone function. So that's just what we use to differentiate the two of them. Now, some methods require you to have parameters, but this one does not require any parameter per se. So if you run this code right now and you say print time dot time, all right? So if you run this code, what will basically happen is Visual Studio is going to give you this time, the current time right now in Unix, or what is called epoch time, all right? And why, I don't know why Unix does that, but they have to punish us every time, because that time actually starts counting from 1970, all right? It's not like Windows. I can't remember when Windows starts counting from, but I think it's 1900 or something, or 1901, I can't remember. So because of that, you might notice a difference or two in the Unix epoch time. So you would see the time it generates here. All right. So so this is it. This is what the Unix epoch time looks like. All right. Later, I probably am going to show you how we can convert that to regular date time. All right. So it's just a pre-written class. But this time class, this time library actually does some good stuff. Now, for example, let's say I want to look through, let's say a list. So names of people in class, I'd use, let me see the list of people in class. Okay, so we have Blessing, we have John, we have Kazim, we have Tina. Okay, so let's do this. Blessing, then we have John, then we have Seema. Right? So now, let's say I want to look through this. So as usual, you know, I like to do this for name in names. Let's say I want to print all the names, but I want to wait for a particular number of seconds before I print the names. Because if I say for name in names, print name right now, this is what is going to happen when I run this code. It's going to just print the 3 names at once, right? And I may not want that to happen. So you can see it just prints the 3 names at once. But what if I want to wait for 3 seconds in between each iteration, or even 5 seconds? So, or even 1 second, I will introduce this time here, and then I'll use this function sleep. And what this function does is it takes just one parameter, which is the number of seconds, and it has to be in a float. All right, float means it has to be a decimal number tops. All right, it can be an integer, but so I'm just going to put 2 seconds. All right. Now, so what I've said is for every name in this name, I want you to first wait 2 seconds, print name, go back 2 seconds, print name, and go back 2 seconds. So when I run this now, this is what is going to happen. So it's going to print the first name, Blessing, second name, John, third name, Tima. All right. So many times when you have to run code that has to do with automation or files, really, you want to introduce this time. It could help you a lot. It could make a difference, because especially if your code has to open a file and close a file and stuff like that, sometimes time it's like a key factor, because if you open the file and shut it down quickly without introducing time, like a break to sleep, you know, and allow the program to run, it might crash the program, it might just, you know, return an error or something. So this is one of the class libraries that are very, very good. Now, another class library that's, go ahead,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The class, I came a bit late. Please, the class library, did you install it with VS Code or it came with VS Code?
No. These libraries come with your installation of Anaconda.
Okay, so
But
you just
they're,
imported.
yes,
How
I
did you
just
link it to
imported.
VS Code? You just wrote import time and
Import time, that's all, yes.
it links with Anaconda.
Yes, straight up. Because I mean, you can
Do
see
I have
from
to put
you can
Anaconda
see from
on?
here. No, you can see from here, my Python, that the Python installation that I'm working with, if you look at the lower part of my VS Code, is my Anaconda. So I
Okay.
can change that if I have other installations of Anaconda, which I do. But with other installations of Python, I have a virtual environment, TensorFlow, and Keras. I have another environment, you know. So, but this is the base. So yeah. But in case you don't use Anaconda and you use just vanilla Python, what happens is that Python comes with, I think, 60 or so built-in libraries. The rest you have to install by yourself. The 60 libraries are requests, OS time, a couple of, let me just check. Python built-in modules. Okay, so I will just share my screen. Okay, found it. VS Code. No, not VS Code, W3 schools. So let me just share that right now so you can see it. So these are the built-in modules. Let's see. I need a list of it. So let me see if I can get the list of it from here. Okay, so let me see. Use W3 schools. Let me just see if there is, okay, so I think this would bring all of them out. Great. So these are all the inbuilt modules that come with your Python if you did not install through Anaconda. All right. So these are all the modules that you have access to. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. You know, yeah. So it's all of them here. Now, but if you have Anaconda, Anaconda comes with about almost 600 or so inbuilt modules. So with that, you have a wider array of modules. So for example, this import time that I did now, let me go to T and see whether it's here. Okay, yeah, so it's here, it's default, which means that whether you imported, whether you have Anaconda or you downloaded Python from the Python website and just installed without an Anaconda distribution or any of all those other distributions, it will run, right? So this is, yeah, not a problem. Okay. So I hope that it's clear. All right. So let me head back to my Visual Studio. So now another of the modules that that can help you a lot is the OS module. And one of the beauties of the OS module is that it makes things a lot easier in the sense that, yeah, okay, so this is how it works. Now, I know when you see your laptop or you see your computer, in case you're not using a laptop, I know what you see are, a bunch of applications, a bunch of, beautiful stuff, your pictures and all that. That's what you see. All Python is seeing are a bunch of files and folders. That's all. And the OS module is the module that allows you to interact with these files and folders. Well, Python doesn't like to call those folders. They rather call it directories. All right. So files and directories, those are the two things that these objects see. So there are quick ways you can interact with your OS, which obviously is made up of files and directories. And one of the class libraries you can use is your import OS. So I will just comment this out so that I can run this code that I want to run right now. Now, there are a lot of things you can do with the OS module. One of them is that you can create a new directory, all right? So, for example, if you look at my desktop right now, you would notice that there is no file named Tima or John, all right? So there's no folder like that or a file or anything like that. So I'm going to create a folder right now that is called John, all right? And how would I do that from my Python code? Because you will use this a lot when you have to write code for automation, or you even have to write code to manage system utilities, especially when in your data science project, you have to refer to a file or move something from an email into a folder or something. So you will always need to refer to something in your OS, and it's something you can run away from. So since I've imported OS, let me create that file. So to create a file in your OS module, you use os.make. Now you see that there are two options. Make directory is to create the directory. And like I told you, a directory is actually just a folder. Make directories is to create like an onion kind of directory where you have one directory inside this directory and another directory inside. So if you just want to create a regular folder, maybe just one folder, use make directory. Now, when you open it, the arguments that it requires, the main argument it requires is the path, all right? Which once you supply, every other one is optional. So the path, when you see this string or bytes path, is just basically telling you, you can have this as a raw string, which is you put your R and you put the file path there, or you can have it as a path, like the normal path that you have it in, like you have it normally in your code when you write those codes on your command line. So let me go copy the path to my desktop. I don't know why I get to forget it sometimes, but so let me just go copy that path. Now let me take this file. I'll right click, copy as path so that I can get the path address. And so let me just take the first, this one, it stops at desktop, all right? So remember, if it's just the path that you want, you should not have this last asterisk. So this last slash // But since I want to create a directory, I'm going to add it back here, and then I'm going to call that directory John. All right. So sorry, that has to be outside here. Okay. So what this is going to do is it's going to my desktop to create a folder named John. All right. And I'm going to run this right now. And once it runs, you'll see that when you get to my desktop, you'll see that folder named John. Okay, so so now it has run. And when I go to my desktop, you see that there is the folder named John. Now, when I open it, there's nothing on the inside, all right? So you can see it's a blank folder. Now, I can decide to create, I can decide to create a folder inside of a folder. So this time I'm going to use os.make directories. And then I'm going to comment out this code so that it doesn't run again, because if it does, it's going to create an error message to tell me the file John already exists. So I'm going to just open this, and then I'm going to put my desktop path again, and I'm going to convert it to a raw string, because if I don't, the system will give me an error. And then I will call this okay, and another one Tima. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to, on my desktop, create a folder called OGE that has a subfolder called Tima. Remember, directory is actually a folder, so that's what it is. So when I run this now, it's going to run. And if there is no folder with this name and subname, it's going to tell me great, no errors. So you won't see any error messages. So when I come to this folder called OGE, you would notice that there is a subfolder called Tima, and it's empty. Okay, so now we can now begin to add stuff inside of all of these files. So let's go back to so before we had that break, I had already created 2 directories, and both directories that I created were one, which is for John, was an empty directory, and there's the second one, which is OGE, and has a subdirectory called Tima. All right, so both are empty. Now, these were the codes that made the directories, that created the directories, and I had to comment them out so that, because if I leave them live and I run another code, it's going to try to create a directory again. And because the directory is already existing, it's going to give me an error. So I just commented them out. So now the next thing I want to do is to create a file that will be inside those directories. So now I could either do something like this. So this is what I could do. There are two ways, more than two ways actually in Python to create files. The first is with this built-in function called open. And till now, I don't know why it's called open because it's actually supposed to be create. That's what it's ought to do, ought to create a file. So I could decide to call this my file. Just make this readable. And then I would say my file is equal to open. Then I would put this directory, this path here to this directory. Because if you look at what this requires, the argument that it requires is, sorry, the argument required is the file, the mode, and then every other thing are optional. So the file that I want to open, a directory that I want to open right now is this Oge and Tima directory. But then I want to create a text file inside of it. All right. So I would just use the name Mike, or let me just use attendance as the name of the file we want to create. So attendance.txt. It's a text file, it's a notepad file. Now, the sad thing about this open method is that the files that you can create with it are binary files or text files, really. So that's why for now, it's just a notepad document we can create with it. There are other ways you can create other files, like other maybe Excel and all of that. And I'm going to probably show one or two shortcuts to do that. But so when I do this, I've identified this variable name as my file. Then I can now, if I run this right now, I can now say my file dot, okay, sorry, I have to put the mode. If not, it's the default mode obviously is read, but I want to write to the file. So let me say I want to write a line in this file. So I could use this, my file dot, my file dot, I'm trying to look for, no, not read lines. I want to write. Okay, so my file dot write. And this is the string that I want to write inside the file. So as I want to just write hi. My name is John inside of the file. Then when I'm done, usually a good practice is to close your file so that other programs can refer to it when you create it. And remember, because this is a method, it doesn't take any parameters, but you must always put the brackets when you call it. So let me run this piece of code right now. When I run this piece of code, so yeah, it's good to go. There are no error messages. So let's go check this one to see whether the file was here. So this is the file right now, attendance. And inside of the file, it's written, hi, my name is John. Okay, so that's one way you can create a file. But like I said, it has to be a text file or a binary file. Now, one more thing that I would want to show you is, let me show the open, let me use the open method, Python, and let me see parameters if it brings out. Okay, so let me check. Okay, cool. So I'm going to use W3 schools, and it shows you a list of all the parameter values that you can have. So if you look at the piece of code that I wrote here, I had to use W here. I'm just telling Python, hey, I want to be able to make some amendments inside of this file when I'm working on it. All right, so that's what I did here with this piece of code. But if I would just want it to be read only and I didn't want to be able to write to this file, what I would notice is I could use R, which is just read. Then I could use, yeah, so A is append, W is write, and then X, if you use X inside of the file mode when you're creating it, it creates the file, but if the file already exists, it returns an error. All right. So then T is text mode, B is binary mode. All right. But already by default is already in text mode since we're opening a text file. So I would just rather write an R or any of all of this inside of it. So
if you would put an A in there, run those
yes.
lines again, you would
Yeah.
then have 2 lines in the file
Right.
that
But
have a name in there.
yeah, but this W is like a mother to this two. So if I have this here, this W, I also have this append, I have read. All right. It's like a mother function that's, you know,
So if you run the code again as
okay.
is with the W in there,
Right.
will it still have 2 lines of code, or does it overwrite the existing information?
Okay, so let me just do that right now so that we could see. So now I could do my file dot write. All right. And let me write hi again. My name is John. Okay, so let me run this right now. When I run this, you'll see what would happen here. Okay, so run. Okay, so it's run already. Let's go look at our file and let's see what we have. So you see, we have hi, my name is John. Hi again, my name is John. And the reason is very simple, because we didn't indicate like a line break. So if we want to take care of this, what we can do is to add a line break here, just in front of this. And the line break is this. So when we're
but you're
running,
going to end up with 2 lines again, not 4. You're overwriting the information that is
yes,
currently
we're
in the file.
overwriting the information. Yeah, that's what this W does. But if
as
I put an
opposed to
A
the A,
here, yes.
yeah.
If I put an
Okay,
A
so
here, it appends here to.
So now you would have 3 lines if you run it with that A.
Yes.
You'd
yes,
have
yes.
one that has hi and hi
Hi,
again,
my name is John. Yeah, then.
and then
yeah.
2 more lines that you have there. Okay.
Right. So let me run this right now. And okay, so it's run. And I'll go bring this out. And yeah, so hi, my name is John. Hi again, my name is John. All right, so that's it. I don't know why there's this indent here, but I'm going to deal with that shortly. Okay. So so that's one way you do this. Now, there is another way you can deal with files. And the thing is this, most times we are spoiled because when we want to create a file, we have a GUI, to just say, hey, new file, or want to have a new file, new text document or stuff, we just create it. And then, so most times we do not know actually that what we are trying to do is actually send instructions when we use all of these GUI methods. So GUI is graphic user interface, right? So when we use all these shortcuts that our mouse allows us to use, what we do is we bypass a lot of commands. But when you go into programming, one of the things you'll discover is that you will have to not use your mouse. So you would have to write a lot of commands that target the shell. Now, what is the shell? The shell of your OS, Windows, or whatever operating system you use is actually that part of your OS that receives command from the command prompts. And being a programmer, you really should not be afraid of all of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you how to create this same stuff that we did using the command prompt. Now, so I used to hate the command prompt a lot because it didn't make sense to me. It wasn't beautiful and it was weird. All right. But I started learning about how to use it to do stuff, and I discovered actually it's actually a very good friend and a very great tool. So one of the things you'll notice is that whenever your command prompt opens up, it opens to the default place where your OS, that's the Windows 10 or Windows, whatever you have, it was installed. So for me, my own installation is in this directory called users.ugo. So that's where it is defaulted to, all right? But you can always change the directory. And to change the directory, all you need to do is just type cd, which means change directory. And you can now put the directory address you want to change it to. So let's say I want to direct Windows to this directory that we have here. Let me use this one for John. All right. So I'm just going to copy this and go to my command prompt and paste it here. So I'm telling Python, hey, change directory to this place for me. So now by the time I hit enter, you would notice that the directory that we are in is no more the Ugo directory of where the OS is. We are now in the desktop, all right, where the folder John or the directory John is. So now if I want to create a file, I can now write the command that creates the file. So usually the command that creates the file is from this stuff called Fsutil. And we're going to look at some of the commands in Python. And what do you want to do? You want to say you want to create a file. And what do you want? A new file. And you would now put the file name. So let me call this john.txt. And then I would need to assign a byte, like a size, memory size to this. So let me just use 1 KB or one kilobytes, right? As the starting size of the file, but it will always expand based on the amount of info that is inside. So, but if you want to learn all of these commands, I've also put, I thought I put that here, but let me just get that, let me get that out. So I'm just going to open my, so I'm just going to go to docs, yeah, Windows commands. So let me just put this link in the chat. I'm just going to put it in the chat right now. So you can always look up command line shells. These are the commands that you use in place of keyboard operations. Now, like I always say, you don't need to know everything. Like, you know, there are like 1 million kinds of stuff you can, you know, I personally do not know even 1/10 of these commands, even 1/30 or 1/50, I don't know, all right? But I just use the ones that I want to use, learn them very well, and then just, you know, use them, and always make reference to this this site if you really need to use them, all right? So the command that I'm using right now is this fsutil command, and you see that under F. Yeah, so you can, from here, once you click on it, it will give you all the syntax for all the possible options that you would need, you know, when you're creating your file. So I'm just going to run this and press enter, and it tells me file this is created. So when I go to my John, and you would see the file is created. Now I can also put some text that I want to show inside of the file and all of that. All right, but I just wanted to show you that the systems, like the most efficient way for the system to create a file is actually the command line. So that's why Python ships with a lot of those commands and ability to control all of those, by default. So let me close this. By the time I close this now, it will default back to this users.ugo where it was before, so that I don't need to write anything. All right. So if I want to, let me just comment this out. So let's say I want to create, not create this time. Okay, we've done directories. So let me say on my desktop right now, I want to open this file called John, all right? And I want to shut it when I'm done. So I'm just going to hold my shift key, right click on this, and then it will show me copy as path. Or I could just come to this place here, click on the file, and click on copy path, whichever one works for me, all right? Some people prefer to just right click here, copy address as text, whichever one, anywhere you like it, you can always get the address of that directory that you want to work in. So let's say I'm creating a program, or I'm doing some automation, or I'm writing a code, data science code. I want to open a file, read the content of the file into, maybe using Excel, Wings, or Pandas, or any of all these tools that reads data. And then I want to shut that file down when I'm done. So how do I go about it? Very simple. The first thing I'm going to do is, as usual, I have my OS, all right? So I'm going to say os.start file. That's the method that you use to start a file. And when you do that, the first thing it's asking you for is the path to the file. So I'm just going to paste the path. I'm going to change it to a raw string, because if I leave it that way, my system is not going to accept it. All right, so this is the path. And then the next thing I want to do is that I will add a time. If I don't add a time, if I just run this right now, this is what's going to happen. When I click on run, it's just going to start up the file like that. So that's it. It just starts up the file. But then I want to put a timer. So I'm going to put time.sleep. So I'm going to tell the system, once you start this file, sleep for like 3 seconds. And then I want you to shut down this file you just started. But the sad thing is that to get Python to shut down this exact file is very clumsy. Now, why I said it's very clumsy is that when you open a file, Python actually does not know the name of the file. It only just captures the process ID of that file. So let me do this. Let me make this comment. So now when I say os dot, is it fd now? No, let me use fd open. Okay, I think it's fd open. Let me just print the fd open. So I'm going to start the file, and I'm going to print fd open is missing one required argument. Okay, it's not fd open. I've forgotten the method it is, but what it does is it gives you the process number of that process that you have. So it starts assigning values to all the open processes. Okay, so Python is open. We'll give that process 0. What other stuff is open? Maybe VS Code or whatever. That's process 1. Then that notepad that just opened right now will be assigned process 3 or so. All right. I think process 3, yeah, there is 0, 1, 2 already for the default applications that Python needs to run. Then every other one that opens is from 3. Yeah. So that's Visual Studio. That notepad that opens will be number 3. That's what it will be. All right. So when you run that, then you can now take that process number and feed it into this method called os.close, that process number, when you feed it into it, then Python will now go and close that process number that is open, the item that has that process number. But some other people do not like this method, so they use this method called os.system. So what does os.system do? os.system is a method that you can use to write commands just like you write in your command line. So when you put this os.system, automatically what you're doing is you're sorry, you've changed your Python installation into a command line. So now it's expecting a command from you. Again, if we look at those lists of commands that we have, there's one command that kills tasks, all right? And it's called task kill. Now, I don't know a lot of these commands, but the ones that I know, I try to know them very well. So this is the command here, task kill, and this is the syntax. You put task kill in your command line. Then the first is the IP address or the name of the computer. Then the second is the domain, all right? The username, the password, and then if there are any filters, the process ID, just in case you have that, all right? And then the image name. And when you hear image name, actually, image is not like a picture or something, no. You would have come across this when you see a file called .iso or something. Basically, it's just talking about the .exe file, all right, that you are trying to target at that point in time. So it can be notepad.exe. And if you want to get the exe name of whatever process it is you want to target, there's a very simple way to get that. Just do Control-Alt-Delete. It will take you to your task manager. I don't want to do that right now. It might just eject me from Zoom. So it will take you to your task manager, and then you would be able to see the processes that are running and the names of the process. So this item called Notepad, or this program called Notepad, generates a process name or image name called notepad.exe. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go to my to this as usual, and I'm going to put this, because anytime you're writing a command in Python, you have to put it in strings. All right, so this is what I'm going to do right now. I am going to now type the command. So task kill is the command, and then I would use this F, which means that I want this process to be forcefully ended. Now, you know that some processes can keep running. If you try to end them, they'll tell you, no, you have not saved or something, depending on the configuration of the process. But if you force it to shut down, it will shut it down completely, irrespective of what that process is, the status of the process. So I'm going to use that, all right? Then if you add this, it kills whatever child process that also is started by this command that you're writing. But now I'm just going to use that /F to say force whatever it is that is running to just close, okay? Then the second command that the stuff requires is the image name, all right? So the image name is obviously notepad.exe. So I'm just going to tell the command line that the image I want to attack with this is notepad.exe. So the sad thing about this is that instead of the other os.close method that receives the file number and just closes it, this one will close all the notepad installations that are open, all the notepad windows that are open. So it's some people think it's a more brute force way, but really I think it's better off, because maybe later we'll look at some of the clumsiness that can happen. For example, if you're running this program, all right, and you run another program, if you're using that FD method, there might be a clash in the number. So while you're expecting maybe Notepad to give you number 3, it might actually give you number 4, or some other things might have happened to the reassigning of the numbers, but it's clumsy. So that's why people prefer this one. I know that once I'm done with this, close the notepad for me. All right. So I'm going to do this right now. I'm just going to run this code. And so let me just close this before it freezes my system. Okay. So when I run this code right now, watch what's going to happen. Remember, I put a sleeper here of 3 seconds. Let me make it 4. And let's run it. So when I run this, he opens the file, counts 4 seconds, then he murders the process. So you see, it gives me a message here: success. The process notepad.exe with this PID has been terminated. So the other code you can write to get this PID so that you can attack the process directly. But hey, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So this just makes things easy for you if you are running a particular code. So let's say personally, I love to use browsers as my PDF engine. All right. So I have PDF readers, but I think I like browsers. So let me open this file. I'm going to copy the path to this file, and I'm going to put it here. But this time, okay, no, let me just paste this here, and I will copy this method and comment this out. Even though when I send this line of code, you cannot run it because it's defaulted to my system. It will keep giving you an error message. You have to use your own directory. So I want to open this PDF document, but like I said, my default PDF reader is Microsoft Edge. And I think Microsoft Edge, the image name for that process is msedge.exe, I think. Yes, let's try this. So let me run this. It will open the PDF document. Oh no, it didn't even open at all. While my Edge was still trying to boot up, you see the system killed it. So you can see the process MS Edge has been terminated. Okay, let's make this 10 seconds. And that's why you need a timer, because sometimes you would not see the effect, especially if I needed that process that is open to be copied. So let's say I wanted to open the PDF, use pandas to read it, and then go off after some time. If I did not have this timer, you can see what happened now. I didn't even see the process. So it was, I don't know whether the pandas will be able to copy it. So let me change it to 10 seconds and then try to run it again. So let me just run it this time and let's see what happens. So I hope, yeah, finally. So you can see it opens the Edge, and while the Edge is still trying to boot up, yeah, it's closed it. Okay, because 10 seconds is quite a short time. So that's the way this one works. So I'm just going to block this out, and probably okay, I think I have a question in the chat. What are the advantages of this method and syntax versus something like pandas.read CSV? Now, there are no advantages except that there are some applications that read only when an item is open. If you look at this application, maybe one of these days we will look at it. Excel Wings is an application that runs spreadsheets. You can use it to run Python inside of your spreadsheets. If you're into finance, you would love it. You will love the package. It's amazing. All right. So there are some times you might want to read a file and you don't want to save the file to, or you don't want the process to just linger. So you probably just want to open the file, copy that page that shows up when you open and shut it down. That's one way to do that. But it's not like there's any major advantage here when you, it's not like any major advantage.
Yeah, I'll have to look into the Excel Wings then, because the only one that I've seen so far is just the CSV, which is kind of limited.
Yeah.
But Excel Wings will give you a lot more control over multiple tabs and sheets.
Lots more control. A lot more control.
Okay.
But Pandas is also beautiful. So maybe when we get to Pandas library, that's in the future, we would look at all of that. Pandas can also give you a lot of control.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks. Can you do a real quick screenshot of the code you've got there so far? Copy and paste. That seems to work the easiest as far as going back. Yeah, all the way up to import time.
Right. So I'm going to just copy this and paste in the chart. And so, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Cool. Okay. So I'm just going to comment this out again so that it doesn't worry the next code I want to write. So there are other things in the OS library. I think today is just for OS. Okay, so you could actually remove a file or a folder that you have created with the remove or remove dars method. So for the first folder that had just John, which is this one, because there is no subfolder on the inside, if we use the remove method, it works straight up. But for this one that has subfolders inside of it, we'll have to use the remove dars method to just deal with that. So if we use the remove, it's going to ask for the path. All right. So let me just go copy the path to this, right click, copy as path, and I'm going to go paste it here. So when I run this right now, it's going to go attack that file. Oh, access is denied. It's true. I need, how do we deal with this again? Let me permission error in OS. Let me just Google that right away. It's a very small piece of code that I should have added. I've just forgotten it completely. So let me just go and Google and try to remember what it is. Okay, so access denied, OS module, os.remove. It's a popular error. How did I forget it? How did I forget it? No. Okay, so let me go to this. There is actually a code way of doing this. So uncheck this and click OK, apply. Okay, okay. So this will work now, but there's actually a code way of doing this. I actually forgot how to do that, but I'm going to probably look at it and let me run this back. Okay, so it has worked right now. Or not, it hasn't worked. There is a code way of doing that. How did I forget it? Okay, so remove and let's see. Let's see. Okay. Access is denied again. Why is it still access is denied? Access is denied. Oh, okay, I forgotten the code. I give up. Okay, I'm going to add that line of code that I will Google it now and then add it as I'm sending you the code up front, all right? So that would take care of the remove directory. Then you might even want to rename the directory too. If it doesn't allow us to do this, it means it might not allow us to rename the directory. But let's try. Because it's the same admin access. How did I forget that thing I should do? Ah, gosh. Okay, so let's use the rename option and let's see how it works. Now, os.rename, no, not remove, rename. Okay, so let me call this one source path, which is the source where we are taking the file from. And let me call this the destination where we want it to be. So I want to move that file, that whole folder, John, into this directory called OG. So let me just copy the path to this directory. And here, I'm going to paste that. So os dot, not rename this time. Now, there is os dot move, right? Os dot, okay. Let me see. That's shutil. That's the shell utilities package, right? That's shutil. That's another module that comes with this. So let me see if that's where it is. Shutil dot, let me see, move. Okay, that's where it is. Okay, so the source and the destination. So let me put src as the source and then destination as dst. All right, and I think it should work right now. So let me just run this. Let me see what it gives me. Okay, no errors. Let's go see what happened. It worked. Okay, so yeah, it's moved John from where it is into this folder. Okay. So let me see. Let me see if I can target it with this shutil. And let's see, shutil dot, is there, let's see. Okay, there's no delete method. And there's no remove method. Okay, so I'm going to get this code working and I'll send it to you. All right. So that's how far we can go, because Tom's class is going to start in the next 5 minutes. That's how far we can go for today. Next week, we're going to continue the discussion on polymorphism and all of that. But when I now start introducing that, you'll now understand, based on these examples of the class libraries that we've worked on, how they work. So when I say abstraction and I give an example, it already becomes very clear, you know, without any stress. All right. So if there is any question, I probably am just going to take it right now. And if I can't answer it right now, I'm going to send you a private answer much later today after Tom's class.